Thank you, everyone, and I thank my panelists, some of the really experts who have been associated with the EBP program for last more than 1.5 decades, and they have really successfully implemented ethanol blending in petrol over the last 15 years, and the share of which has improved over the last 10 years from 1.5% to about currently at what, 15%? Yeah, and it's further going to be increased to about 20%. Once we have reached 15% blending, obviously, I mean, there is a absolute certainty that we are going to achieve 20% blending in next 1 or 2 years time frame. So that's a real great achievement by our companies through procurement as also the production of ethanol from different sources, right from molasses, because earlier, 10 years back, the ethanol used to come only from the molasses because that was close to be around 250 crore liters. But now we have our total production from different sources, including sugarcane juice, the grains, and some other sources. Also, the 2G ethanol, the total production has gone close to about 600 crore liters, and it's further going to increase to somewhere close to around 1,000, I mean, at least 8 to 900 crore liters, so as to reach up to 20% blending. In fact, a few days back, one of the member, Mr. Ramesh Chandra, he's a member agriculture NITI Aayog, and he was mentioning that we could even reach up to 25% of blending if we could produce somewhat more corn, which is feasible. He being the member agriculture and being agriculture expert, he was confident that we could grow more corn and could produce additional corn-based ethanol so as to reach 25% of ethanol blending. Though we do have some of the issues about fuel versus food, but yes, that's his assertion that we could produce that something like 1,500 crore liter of ethanol so as to reach the 25% ethanol blending in petrol. So yes, we do have a program, we do have capacities, and yes, we could reach yes, 20%, that's what had been the target. Also that beyond that, anything would be a sort of bonus, and if we could produce that much, it will be certainly replacing a good amount of imported fuel, and we could save a lot of foreign exchange through that. In fact, on the biodiesel side, of course, things could not happen the way we thought about, because the biodiesel program was started sometimes in 2007-8 by the 3 oil companies, where Jatropha plantation was taken up by IOC, BPC, and HPC in Chhattisgarh. And with Chhattisgarh Renewable Energy Corporation, they developed joint venture to produce Jatropha, but somehow things could not develop the way it was thought. The price for Jatropha plantation and also the seeds and its yield pattern was not coming at close to the price which was thought about, and obviously the biodiesel program could not be taken up aggressively, though some amount of biodiesel is still produced in India, but yes, not to the extent the way it is. I mean, it could be enhanced. It could be blended in diesel. If I was just looking at a couple of numbers, globally, a total quantum of about 2.17 million barrels of biofuels are produced. And of course, when we come to the bioethanol or the MS-based, gasoline-based ethanol, that's close to about 1.17 million barrels a day, and the balance is the biodiesel largely produced in Canada, Mexico, and the European countries, while the bioethanol, of course, is produced in US, Brazil, India, China, and of course, a number of other European countries. So obviously, I mean, there's a lot of efforts on green fuels, both on the biofuels as well as biodiesel, but besides that, we also have the sustainable aviation fuel, where a lot of where a lot of work is happening, so as to start the aviation also with the green fuels. So yes, we do have a lot of work going on besides, of course, the oil production and producing diesel and MS, which is the demand of which is close to about 104 million barrels a day. With respect to that, 2.1 or 2.17 million barrels a day of both biofuel, including bioethanol and biodiesel, that amounts to about something like 1.5 or 1.6% in thermal value equivalent. But yes, that's also not a bad ratio to have, because 1.7% of oil is currently being blended in petrol and diesel, and of course that creates a lot of positivity or reduces emissions. But going forward, it's going to be going to further go up. We could maybe, I mean, something like even we could reach, I mean, on the global basis, somewhere around 5 to 6 or even 10% blending, both for the biodiesel as well as bioethanol. That'll be the great achievement, and a number of countries are putting in efforts to enhance the capacities and produce both biodiesel and bioethanol. We have been talking about 2G ethanol, and also that 2G ethanol, we did start capacities, both all the three companies, IOCL, BPCL, and HPCL, they have started their commercial scale plants for the 2G ethanol, and I believe that those have been completed, and some of the plants have started producing 2G bioethanol also. But the kind of quantities which are really required are going to come from either the corn or the sugarcane juice or the molasses. If we can really enhance productivity of sugarcane within the country, though during the last 10 years, the sugarcane production has gone up by about 10 to 12%, but still there is a good requirement of enhancing the sugarcane production so as to enhance our ethanol production capacity from the sugarcane juice directly, or of course, even if it is processed through the sugar and the balanced molasses which is there, that could enhance the production of ethanol. Now, in view of this, let me address to my panelists who have been really knowledgeable on this subject, who have been working on the subject, who have been really committed for the blending of ethanol in petrol or motor spirit from a level of 1.5% to about 15% as of today, and further going to improve. So, I mean, in that context, let me ask the questions from our knowledgeable panelists. Pravin, IOC is the largest marketeer in Indian fuel market, and you have been marketing about 50% of by and large 50% of automotive fuels. What do you think that the kind of capacities which are there, though Dr. Ramesh, Professor Ramesh Chandra, the member NITI Aayog, he says that we could reach up to 25% of blending. So what do you think about the availability of ethanol going forward in next 10 years?
Thank you, Sharma sir, for setting the context. I would say that means from 2018 onward, I think there's with the onset of this new national biofuel policy, I think that has been probably a game-changing year, which probably changed the platform for not just ethanol, but it introduced additional option of CBG also. So if you see India as a, from that perspective, now means the biofuel arena is diversified as compared to the original ethanol and biodiesel only. Now you have SAF, you have CBG, and then people are working on even marine applications for means biofuel application for marine fuels also. So with the objective of mitigating. So that has been a game-changing year, and based on the policy provisions, the feedstocks were diversified, like means broken rice, damaged rice, then maize, and then cassava or other big roots, means beetroots. Those were incorporated, and based on that, people set up capacities based on grain-based, because earlier grain-based production not generally was not coming to blended ethanol.
Right.
So a lot of that quantity means, if you see the trend after that, the damaged food grain as well as FCI grain-based capacities sharply shot up, and the blending ratios have sharply increased. And subsequently, when maize was allowed, if you see the percentage now, almost 20 to 30% of ethanol is coming, more than 30% ethanol is coming from maize. Probably more than the shows from molasses. So with the production of maize anticipated to increase, and from DFPD side also, few EOIs have been floated in the past. So based on that, additional almost 600 to 700 crore liters of capacities are coming on stream in near future. So at least for 20%, we don't see any issue. Means for 20% blending by 26, we require around 1,024 crore liters of ethanol. And that should be easily possible with maize, C molasses, B molasses, sugarcane juice, and damaged food grain and rice. Only thing is, probably the three ministries need to work, probably DFPD, Minister of Agriculture, and our ministry need to work out, because it's a game of feedstock in the end. And then how do you bring on the additional feedstocks? Because additional feedstocks potentially, what we are seeing on the horizon is sweet sorghum. The varieties which are being specifically cultivated by institutes like ICRISAT, which are focused on the sweet sorghum juice, which can be used like sugarcane juice. So probably it can help in joint cropping or cross cropping with sugarcane, and then probably utilizing your existing distillery capacities, which are probably operating in part of the year, to operate throughout the year. So that will, with existing capital investment as well as the land under cultivation, probably you can shoot up your production by almost 100 to 200 crore liters of ethanol. So at least 20% is easily doable. After that, probably we'll have to see for increasing the thing, the blending ratios. Probably we'll need to look into the suitability of vehicles. So as Honorable Minister of Transport has suggested, flex fuel vehicles. So from 26 onward, flex fuel vehicles are going to come in. So probably the best route for India will be that have a particular base blend ratio and then include flex fuel, so that means people have the flexibility to select what ratio of blend they want to have, and so you don't get stuck to one particular thing. So I think the future is bright, at least for ethanol blended
Right. So
fuel.
that's 100% ethanol propelled vehicles, of course, we are targeting at. And Mr. Gadkari, of course, is very much fascinated by the biofuels, and he's done a lot of good things about the ethanol blending and enhancing the ethanol production. So that's a great thing. In fact, and also the pricing side, of course.
And
lot of things
one
have
more thing I
happened.
would like to add, sir, miss probably, because in case of EVs, we had faced the challenge of whether the charging come first or the vehicles come first. So
Yeah.
here also the challenge was for flex fuel vehicles, like whether the ethanol is available or not. So miss, on pilot basis, Indian Oil has deployed
Yeah.
100% ethanol at 400 outlets already. So at least for trial and use purpose also, miss, is available for OEMs as well as end customers also.
Great.
So,
So, Subodh, you have done a lot of work on this. I think you have also been one of the, you started such a program and intensively you have been working on this. So what's your take on how to really get excess ethanol production so as to reach first 20% and then beyond that the feasibility of producing ethanol, and also that a lot of work, a lot of talk which is going on. Yes, the ethanol production from the biomass also. So what's your view, to what extent we could reach the ethanol production or enhance ethanol production from different sources?
Sir, thank you for your question and thank you for setting up the context. I will start from where Pravin has talked about. See, blending ratios like you mentioned the NITI Aayog member talking about 25% blending and all those things. Actually, what he talked about, not exactly the blending. What he talked about the potential part.
Yeah.
See, we cannot blend gasoline or petrol at any ratio and then we expect that market will accept it.
Yeah, that's right.
So the challenge there is that the vehicles which have been produced prior to 2023 can use 10% blending. Beyond that, it is 20% blending. So there are a lot of vehicles which are already available in the market, which are fit only for 10% blending.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening here when we talk about the 15% blending, I just wanted to clear certain things because people are from the oil industry, but it's still a lot of confusion takes place. So it is either 20% blending or 10% blending. It is nothing like that if somebody is blending 15% or 16%. So what we generally say that we sell around 39 million tons of gasoline, so much of ethanol has been sold in a tonnage. That's why this 15% blending has happened in the country. This is the number is there. But the gasoline which has gone, it at 10% blending or 20% blending. That is there. Which are the 20% blended states? So UP, Delhi, Haryana, Maharashtra, Karnataka. So here generally the 20% blending is being done. Now coming to so we cannot do beyond 20%. We should not be talking about any blending beyond 20%. Because this will confuse the automobile manufacturers and this thing. Other day we had a meeting along with the automobile manufacturers in Mr. Gadkari's office, and it was decided in the sense that that we will be talking about now only two things. One is 20% blended gasoline, that is equivalent to 27% blended gasoline in Brazil, and 100% ethanol. That is, and the difference from the Brazil and India will be that Brazil, there is hydrous ethanol, 96% and 4% is water there, where in case of India, it will be 99.9% ethanol. So that is almost 100% ethanol. So this is the difference from Brazil and India, and we will be promoting or advocating for the flex fuel vehicles. Now, coming back to, sir, your question, that what is the potential, whether it is food versus fuel and all those things. Say there are two more avenues are coming for the ethanol. One is the sustainable aviation fuel, where the two molecules of ethanol are required to make one molecule of the SAF. So that 2 liters of ethanol will give you 1 liter of SAF. The technologies, people are working, Praj Industry and others are working on that. So that is also a very big market for the ethanol. Secondly, actively being considered is the blending in, ethanol blending in diesel, because we don't, as Sir has said, that we don't have the sufficient biodiesel B100 in our country. So that actively we can consider the diesel blending with ethanol. That is also possible. Only challenge there is that it will bring down the flash point. So some solutions are being thought of that. But testing has been done in various R&D centers up to 7% blending without any loss of performance for the diesel vehicles. So these are the areas which are there. Now, you wanted to know about the 2G ethanol, sir, the third generation. Yeah. Those technologies have been established in the lab scale and the commercial scale also. So as you know that there are 4 plants, 3 from the IOC, BPC, HPC, 1 from NRL, and the third generation, what we call is that gas fermentation. Yeah. So all these things are being tried at the commercial scale. A lot of challenges are there. Yeah. Even at the commercial, means from the lab scale to commercial scale, a lot of challenges are there. We are struggling, all industries are struggling with those things, but we are sure that we will be able to cross those.
Now, you mentioned about the ethanol blending in diesel. So last month at Bangalore, I got my car filled, diesel car filled with the green diesel. So can you just throw a little light about?
No, sir, that green diesel is a slightly, I am old school of thought, that is a bad nomenclature. But whatever the company it is, it would be my company also. So that is a bad nomenclature. What they meant was that it is a fuel efficient. Nothing to do with the green, with the, no green element is there. Right. So no bio element is there. Okay. Only thing is that more fuel efficient.
Okay, right. So that's great. I mean, because many of you would be reaching some of the petrol pumps, and if you have a diesel-based car, you should know that what exactly the green diesel is about. So that's.
I would just like to add to that, sir. It is basically not from the feedstock or source perspective. It is basically reducing the emissions. Probably.
That is our efficiency and technology.
So that's right. That also gives 5% higher efficiency.
Let me add, sir. Let me add. Yeah. It's the same kind of nomenclature. When we started for the octane rating improvement, we started mixing that tetraethyl lead. It was sold as ethyl. They were not talking about lead. Till such time it was banned. So, so a lot of American companies made billions of dollars on selling TEL as ethyl.
Good. So thanks. So Sanjukta, you are doing a lot of work at TERI on biofuels. So what's your view on what's the real future about biofuels in India?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this platform. Well, as a microbiologist and as a scientist working in this domain since last 2 decades, I would like to focus on diversification of the input feed, because whenever we talk of production of any type of biofuel, we see on 2 aspects. One is the downstream application potential and one is the input feed availability. In the case of ethanol, the point that you had said for whether India should consider for enhancing the production of ethanol, definitely. Blending is a separate issue, and the compatibility for use of higher percentage of ethanol blended with gasoline, sir has already mentioned, Subodh sir. So ethanol as a biomolecule has also several downstream potential applications. One is, I would like to focus over here, is the green shipping. Because shipping sector is also looking forward to go green. As we know that you have also set the context that the availability of biodiesel is also one of the constraints. So when the shipping sector will also look at for blending of this biofuel with the marine diesel, we do not have enough of biodiesel, although biodiesel is also a potential biofuel for blending with the diesel. ethanol is also gaining importance as a bioalcohol blending with diesel, like Subodh sir has mentioned. Several studies are already being tested and demonstrated, and by blending 7 to 7.5% of ethanol with the diesel, and going beyond that 7.5%, it requires some of the additives. And in another sector, that's ethanol is also gaining importance for adoption for production of SAF. Because biodiesel, we are looking at for use of feed for SAF production, but we know biodiesel is not available in that enough of quantity. So that is the HEPA pathway, so alcohol to jet pathway, where ethanol is gaining more importance to use as a biomolecule or the precursor molecule for the biojet fuel production. So that is for the liquid biofuel. Coming to the 2G, because when we say the diversification of feed, we must look at and the enhanced production capacity of the biofuel, we must look at for use of different diverse input feed, because if one of the challenges that the industries are also facing for the sustainable availability of the feedstock. So the process should be taken into consideration for use of the multiple of the diverse input feed using such robust microorganism that can feed on diverse feed. And for the 2G, like you mentioned, yes, because for the ethanol and any fermentation process, we look for the carbohydrate-based feed. So biomass, the carbohydrate fractions is around only 60 to 70%. So when we talk for cost of any output product, we should also look at extraction of all input fractions in the form of output products. In the 2G, the biomass, we get around 25 to 20% of lignin. So that is one of the aspects where we see, and there is a cost for delignification of feed so that we get the carbohydrates to use as a feed for fermentation. So one way to reduce this cost of the process is not, because cost is assessed at the process cost, but one can offset the cost of this 2G ethanol by co-producing some high-value chemicals from lignin-derived chemicals. So one should look at what type of chemicals or the biochemicals we integrate with this biofuel so that the 2G bioethanol cost can get offset by these high-value biochemicals. And coming to the gaseous part, because input feed is same, so the CBG is also taking a great shape in India. Many of the plants are being commissioned and commercially they are operating. So we have to look at the availability of the feedstock at different region and the requirement, downstream usage potential of that particular biofuel, whether it is gaseous, whether it is liquid, and the one part I would also focus that you mentioned the biodiesel jatropha based, because that time the biorefinery concept could not see the light of the day. We were focusing only to use the oil based, the seed, the oil component from the seeds to use as a feed for biodiesel, but nobody focused on use of the rest of the biomass fractions of those plants to use as a very good feed, which we are focusing for production of different type of biofuels, including biogas and bioethanol. So whenever we talk of biofuel, it should be focused to work or deploy in a biorefinery approach, the way the petroleum biorefineries are working, so that one can address this cost, sir. So 1G, 2G, and the 3G also, like sir has mentioned, one can also focus on algae-based biomass, 1G, 2G, 3G, and the waste gas, and also algae and aquatic plant-based biomass. So one must look into focusing on use of entire spectrum of 1G, 2G, 3G biomass, and also effectively look after which biochemical or biocommodity production should be integrated with that biofuel so that one can address this high cost of biofuel by offsetting the co-production of these biochemicals.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sanjukta, for that remark. Mahak, what's your take?
First of all, am I audible?
I think you can take Sanjukta.
You can use this.
Yeah, you can take, that.
Yeah, that is audible.
I think it's working. I'm sorry, it's the first time I'm kind of holding the mic, being on dais. So, me coming from CSIR IIP, so what we are doing over there is we have developed a process where we can take like a lot of non-edible oils and use cooking oil, and then do a one single step process to convert it into 80% liquid products. And the three fractions of those products are, if I can call, one is green diesel, depending upon the feedstock, it can be up to 30%. Then we have SAF, which is again 20 to 30%, and then naphtha. So that's what we are right now focusing in Biofuel division of IIP, to take the used cooking oils and a different kind of feedstock to make these valuable products. Now at the same time, we have started to focus on PTL routes, like power to liquid. And the way we are thinking about this problem is to prepare bioethanol from 1G process. We aren't claiming that we are going to develop a complete, like a new route, but it's more of an add-on route. For example, if we are making 50 kilotons of bioethanol from 1G route, it gives out like 100 kg of carbon dioxide. If we have an electrocatalytic process, which can work at 50% efficiency, then as per our calculations, we can still add on like 30% more ethanol product in the overall process. So that's why, that's how we are trying to look into this problem. And the challenges are there. For example, it's still an immature technology, like converting CO2 directly to ethanol via electrocatalysis route. But then we have some results, which we think in coming not years, but at least a decade, we can make it to the pilot plants and maybe to the commercial levels. So yeah, that's what I think about it.
Thank you, Mahak. Faizur, you have been for long working on bioenergy side, so what do you think, the ethanol production enhancement, what could be the sources? You know the things globally, and you have worked on different aspects of bioenergy, so yes, what's your take?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your question, sir. Sir, I think that reaching from 1.5 to 15 is an achievement, as you have rightly mentioned, sir. And as Mr. Pravin is also very confident that we might achieve very soon the 20% also. And major contributor has been 1G into that thing, the ethanol production over there. But if you really wanted to move on beyond 20, then there are certain challenges. And I'll say not challenges, it's a work of tandem between the car manufacturer, between the new technologies of 2G, 3G, whatever we are talking about. And the biggest issue among it all, how we are going to accumulate the biomass. Because I have been working in Assam, and we try to develop a bamboo supply chain, and it's a very digital approach we have tried to put in for that plan. What I'm seeing and what we all are going to see in the coming week in Delhi now, that it's again the famous season of Delhi, that crop burning season is started, and we are already getting some very poor air quality. So if we really wanted to address that problem, then the private sector and maybe a little bit more push, more concrete attempt from the government side also, how the accumulation of the biomass is going to happen. I don't think it is going to be a feasible solution that you just make a law or ask people to accumulate that. We need to make a very robust system, and we need to be mindful that it is not becoming very expensive, because some people are collecting it and selling it to the industry at a very high price also, though farmer is not getting much out of it. So we need to see that. So in my view, if you wanted to move from 15 to 20 and then beyond that, then we need to work tightly with the car manufacturers, that they should come out and they should also spell out the timelines when they would be ready to introduce the flex engines which we are talking about. And then we need to see the timelines of how the 2G refineries are going to get commercialized in India, and how they are going to get full scale. Because what I know, the NRL project is about to do their core technology trial run in this month or maybe the next month, and then I think that another 1.5 years is required to commercially scale it up. So seeing all those things in tandem, and then when we know that EVs are also pretty much here, and people are excited about the hydrogen buses and all those things also. So we need to make sure that what is going to be our approach. We have been very smart and attain or pick up the low-hanging fruit, as Mr. Subodh was talking in the lunchtime, that we have been able to come out with this 15% blending. We are going forward with bio-CNG. But if you really wanted to advance to the next level, then I think it's a good time to just sit together. And I'm pretty sure with
No,
Mr.
that's
Gadkari
right.
and all that, the ministers very active in that, we are doing that thing.
No, in fact, we often talk about on our bioenergy group that we should have a dedicated bioenergy ministry so that they can handle everything together. But somehow things really have not happened, and we hope that that should happen so that entire bioenergy package, because today bioenergy is with MNRE and the biofuels are with Ministry of Petroleum. So obviously, I mean, there's still a lot of, fortunately what has happened from 2017 onward, the biofuel, after it has come to the Ministry of Petroleum, a lot of things have happened, but yes, the base product, the bioenergy still remains to be with MNRE. Now that's one thing, but yeah, coming to the next point, in fact, about a decade back, we had a committee of secretaries on biofuels, chaired by Cabinet Secretary. Now, in that, we had a meeting, and I was also there as one of the members from Planning Commission. So, yes, people were discussing how to improve the biodiesel production. So, I mean, I just, off the cuff, I said that to the Cabinet Secretary that why can't we have the genetically modified variety of plants and the seeds coming out of that. Now, the Cabinet Secretary, he had in his mind the GM variety of foods, which is not possible in India. But then I said, this is not for the human being, but for the cars and automobiles. So then he said, yes, there could be some. So that's one point I just want to have. But besides that, my major point was, we are talking about 2G ethanol. Now, 2G ethanol, of course, 3 of the major commercial plants have been taken up. Now, the viability issues of 2G ethanol production are still there. So, yes, I mean, I also wonder that to what extent we can overcome the viability issue of 2G ethanol production to enhance the ethanol production in the country. So these are two questions. The genetically modified variety of seeds for the biodiesel and the viability of 2G ethanol. Yeah, Pravin.
I think I'll first go on 2G ethanol side.
Yeah.
See, in 2G ethanol, basically we are converting the cellulose, hemicellulose, and xylose in the cellulosic biomass. Potential-wise, around 178 million metric ton was the quantity that we had assessed when Subodh was there leading our team. So probably that would have grown up. But we need to understand that, you are dealing with biomass, and the routes presently are being followed, which are being followed are basically enzymatic hydrolysis, whether it can be acidic or alkaline or steam explosion. But any of the routes you follow, the conversion efficiency and the enzymes. These are one of the based on the plants that we have set up and we have operated, we are operating presently. The OPEX is phenomenally heavy. The CAPEX is phenomenally heavy. If you compare to 1G ethanol, if 1G per KL is 1 to 1.5 crores is the CAPEX, then here is almost 10 times of that. So the material of construction has major impact. These are not, see, if you are able to find solutions, so each challenge can be a big opportunity also. So if you are able to, because if you see across world, probably this is one of the biggest 2G ethanol program in the world. No other country has parallelly started on so many 2G initiatives based on different routes.
Yeah,
so probably it's an opportunity for the Indian technology talent as well as engineering talent to develop ecosystem, because there are challenges from each stage, from aggregation to stacking, because even agriculture universities or agriculture researchers will have to play a role. How do you elongate the life of the stored biomass? How do you do optimize, like you have oil depots, you'll have to have biomass depots. So how do you optimize and manage there? Because if you allow them to degrade, then you are, instead of mitigating CO2, probably you are contributing to GHG emissions, because the methane that will be emitted by degradation, that will be unmitigated, will not be recycled, right? So CO2 at least will be going, it will be CO2 is net zero, but not methane net zero. Another challenge that we have observed on ground is that you assume something and you go for certain machineries. One simple example is the mud that is coming into. So how do you train and have equipments, aggregation equipments, agricultural machinery suitable to collect the biomass, so that your mud content. As of now, we are finding that in a 20 kg, 25 kg bale, we are getting 2 kg of mud. Now, if that mud gets into the plant, it's not just downing, reducing your efficiencies, it's creating problems within in the process, is creating problem for the equipment. It's really tearing the pipelines. So that's what we are noticing. So how do you optimize the overall ecosystem? How do you develop the machinery? Because world over, people had tried out cellulosic biomass, but those were either woody or corn stalk or your wheat straw. Now, nobody had silica there. As soon as you get 14 to 18% silica, the game changes. From equipment perspective, from the reactor perspective. So we need to find solutions. And another aspect that we need to probably think of, that means whether we should be focused on or infatuated by one particular fuel, or we have to have our basket which is appropriate for India. So whether, because as Madam was saying that the same feedstock can either give you CBG or it can give you 2G ethanol. So what is more appropriate and what is more cost effective for India, probably we should take a call based on that. So, and on the seed front, GM, I don't know to what extent we'll be able to control, but at least we find that if you are able to enforce the UCO regime, used cooking oil regime, as of now we are collecting around 40 crores liters of biodiesel. After so many years of efforts, right? TBO, Indian Oil has tried out across UP, Gujarat, MP, Chhattisgarh, right? Whether you modify the seeds, but you cannot modify the soil and geological conditions in that area. Now, everybody jumped on the bandwagon with the hypothesis that this is a hardy plant, will grow anywhere. You don't read the normal farming and agriculture practices, but on the contrary, it has to be a proper plantation system, right, with all nutrient inputs. So whether you go for GM or not GM, so probably we need to take a call, that means whether TBO based on the natural resources with the involvement of tribal communities, we target that to that extent. So for that, how you develop the aggregation systems there with the involvement of locals, that can be focused. And UCO can have good potential if you are able to enforce the FSSAI guidelines or the rules, regulations that have been forced. Probably present potential is 222 crores liters, and probably by 2040 it can go to 400 crore liters. So almost 85% yield of biodiesel. So at least it will change the scenario from nothing to something. Okay. So probably that can be a better route.
Subodh, your take.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you. So there are 2-3 questions involved here. So I have issues on that. So something for the 2G ethanol thing. Now 2G ethanol, as Pravin has said, there are issues with the OPEX, CAPEX, and the real operating this thing. So what we could see that time, because a lot of government, I will not use the word pressure, but this was there. And because what has happened, there was an announcement of 12 2G ethanol plants.
Yeah, that's
So, and so we said, ki, okay, we will be doing, somehow we convinced the government those days that, ki, okay, let us do sir, 3 or 4 plants and have our learnings from that. And then we will go for the 12 plants and all. So, but a lot of commitment was made to the public at large, and especially this problem of parali burning and all those things. So then we came out with this idea of CBG, compressed biogas, and then that is the much easier solution as compared to the 2G
right.
for handling the biomass. And again, from the CBG is a versatile fuel, so you can replace the natural gas, you can replace LPG, you can replace even CNG, diesel, all kind of things. They're very versatile. And whatever it is coming, fermented organic manure is coming, goes back to the soil. So that silica problem and everything is sorted out. So that is what we did, and successfully the Satat program was launched. As we speak here, there is a 2-day program is going on in another hotel on the hosted by World Biogas Association. And they are discussing about the Satat thing. Sir, about the this thing, genetically modified oil and feed, and that is very, very dangerous, sir. Dangerous. I tell you, only one crop has been allowed here in India, that is the cotton.
cotton.
Now, everybody talked about the cotton is not coming in your food chain. It should not come in the, but have you heard about an oil called Capacia oil?
Right.
It is the seed of the cotton.
Right.
And Capacia oil is being sold for the human consumption. In fact, the challenge here is that, sir, 40% of your edible oil is imported. And that is generally speaking sunflower oil or palm oil. Now, palm oil means Europe doesn't eat palm oil. They use it directly in the biodiesel. But in our country, we are using the palm oil. Unfortunately, the blending of palm oil and the rice bran oil is permitted now. Even the mustard oil. If you go and buy whatever the mustard oil you are buying for 160 rupees a liter, 180 rupees a liter, get it tested. It could be 50 to 60% palm oil. That is permitted now. So unfortunately, this is the what situation is here. Sir, we struggled, we are fighting even today. Yeah. We are not allowing the dented corn to enter in our geography. Right. The moment the dented corn enters in our geography, it will go to the food chain. And it has happened in US. They say, so no, it has not entered in our food chain. Why it has not entered there, your food chain? Because you are feeding, after taking out the ethanol, the DDGS, you are feeding to your animals, the pork and beef cow, and you are eating that thing. Now there is a premium on the grass-fed beef. So everything is messed up, means in the food chain and all. So God forbid, sir, let us not bring any GM things here in our country.
No, that's a great comment. Sanjukta, your take?
For 2G ethanol, I would like to focus in, because the cost and other technological aspects I would like to focus on. Because compared to the 1G ethanol, 2G ethanol, there is an additional cost for treatment of this biomass, for which we use these enzymes. So the process cost is higher over here. And then the yield, the productivity, because in the biomass we have lignin and silica. So one way the technological improvement is required, though many of the technologies are being developed, but not demonstrated at higher TRL scale, though the 2G ethanol production is already demonstrated. Because one way is to, like I mentioned, to reduce the process cost. Unless we delignify effectively and remove the silica, the enzyme requirement for this hollow cellulose or the complete carbohydrate conversion to the fermentable sugar would be high. And there is a cost for enzyme production. So it is essential to recover that enzyme, because whatever the enzyme we use for the hydrolysis, not that entire fractions are being utilized. So there is an option or potential to recover that enzyme after this hydrolysis and for reuse. And like we said, and if we remove lignin and silica, the requirement of enzyme quantity for hydrolysis would be less. and the time required, time is directly linked with the process cost. Normally it takes 48 to 72 hours. If we effectively delignify and remove the silica, the hydrolysis process time we can reduce. So there is one way to reduce the overall process cost of this pre-treatment of biomass and to recover the fermentable sugar. And the other, that again requires extensive R&D to demonstrate at a higher TRL scale. The other part is that the lignin fractions, which is around 10 to 15% if we recover, and the silica if we use the rice straw. So those lignin fractions, one way is we use directly, but we should look at a way. The lignin fractions, we should produce a type of molecule. For example, if we valorize this lignin through fermentation pathway again and produce high value acids like vanillin and vanillic acid and the other acids which are finding a great application in the pharma industry. The selling cost of those chemicals is very, very high, over $100 and $200. So that is why, but that technology is still not demonstrated at a higher TRL. So if we look forward to use of this biomass for 2G ethanol, there is a dire need to produce high value, the high market selling value, the biochemicals, so that can help us in offsetting the cost of 2G ethanol. Other one, the water is also coming again and again. So one can focus also on the water recovery and reuse. And the CO2 which is coming, the small fraction of CO2 we get, that can also be captured and linked with some other chemicals. So if we link with the production or co-production of this portfolio of other chemicals with this 2G ethanol, the price or the cost that we are getting, current cost of 2G ethanol production can be reduced. Like for CBG, of course, there is a great potential to use that for CBG as well. But for technological point only, I am focusing on here. Whatever the product we are producing, any biofuel, we must look into factor that all the input fractions we recover in the form of usable product and chemical. That is the core thing one should focus on. For the biodiesel, like you mentioned, for the GM, like we understood, there is, because regulatory and the controlling aspects, one of the very crucial aspect, unless we address on this, GM topic will not get us, I will not point out much on that. Regulation aspects should be addressed before going for the GM-based crop. For the biodiesel, the input feed material is very less, so one should also parallelly focus on cultivation of tree-borne, short gestation tree-borne oilseed crops. There are 7 to 8 varieties, and those crops can be planted in the wasteland or the marginal unutilized land, so that we can have the potential for getting more of the feedstock for the biodiesel-based feedstock, apart from using this UCO and other 1G-based oil. And also one can focus on the marine algae because the coastal sites can be focused for cultivation of marine alga, so that we can diversify more of the oil-based feed. Because when we say diversification of feed, alga is also one of the, especially marine alga. So one can use this seawater for cultivation of marine alga. Under DBT TERI Center of Excellence, TERI has demonstrated a 1 lakh liter scale marine alga cultivation that is running 24/7 in Mumbai coast. So after extraction of these lipid fractions for biodiesel production, the rest of the fractions, 70 to 80% fraction, we are using for production of high value chemicals. So this is the pointer I would like to suggest that one should focus on connecting the.
Thank you. Mahak, quick.
So on the GMO feed topic, I personally kind of agree with my fellow panelists that it does lead to certain problems. After some time, it gets into the food chain.
Yeah.
Like a couple of years back when I was in the US, what happens is when you're going to buy even like eggs, there are 10 kinds of eggs, like GMO-free, cage, outside cage. So those things can happen here as well, and then we may have like price fluctuations, which we don't know when will happen, but it can. And on the second side, like preparing 2G routes more efficient, a lot of work I see goes into catalyst development, like how one can go from lignocellulosic biomass to bioethanol. More efficient processes are reported like every day, like there are so many papers, but then they are again using those certain reaction conditions or noble metals which give you the results but aren't probably scalable. So I think that's also one gap which, as a research perspective, I think needs to be addressed more to make this overall process more efficient, bring the prices down.
Okay, thank you. Faizur, with your experience, what do you think?
Sir, I believe that the technology need to be right.
Yeah.
Means we need to get the technology which can optimize the product. Means if we are just trying to focus, okay, 1G we have been able to do it. We have some excess food, waste food which we wanted to convert, and we have made 1G ethanol. That's okay. But if we really wanted to make biofuel from the second generation and all that things, we need to focus on the technology which can really optimize the product. Means, and I'm saying with the caveat that this Campolis technology is yet to get commercialized. Also, I'm not advocating any technology. So the technology should be able to, means it should not become a problem like we are making ethanol, but we are creating a lot of waste. Like ma'am has highlighted that we need to find out the good use of the lignin, how we can segregate the silica from particularly from the rice straw, which is a big problem. How we can do that thing. We need to have those kind of technologies. But after use, I think the cost of enzymes and all that things, when we can localize it within India, I think that will come down. But that would also require a scale. Means if we are able to identify good technology which is commercially feasible at this point in time at some price, with the operational efficiency, I believe that enzymes and all those things can be cut down, and that would happen during that time. That's my answer.
Thank you. So now I have just one quick question. In fact, I had been handling MNRE for about 7-8 years when I was in Planning Commission as a part of, because we used to have budget distributed to MNRE. Because MNRE was under our supervision. And when we started the solar, in fact, it was wind program first and then was the solar program. So the kind of subsidies, the viability gap funding which we used to provide, of course, the program, both wind and solar programs now have grown quite a big. But at that point in time, that was sometimes in 2012-13, 12, 13, 11, I used to tell MNRE that you also have bioenergy as one of the subjects with you. Why don't you provide some viability gap funding for the bio-CNG or biogas program? But they were very reluctant on providing funds for the bioenergy and biogas and bio-CNG. Now, with, as also even the biofuels were also under their jurisdiction at that point in time. So now, having faced challenges, bringing up biofuels to a 15% blending level, what kind of government incentives or help, you being industry, need from the government so that, yes, bio-CNG, biogas, and the biofuel program and biodiesel program can be further enhanced to a big level? Pravin, you have been, IOC had been one of the major experienced company in this.
See, if you see the growth in 2G or even the recent past, even the biodiesel blending procurement has also increased. The simple reason was basically economical incentive that they could get. If I remember probably in those days, sir, 30 rupees ethanol ka procurement price was there, right? And then now presently, presently now ethanol is being procured for different feedstock from 63 rupees to 71 rupees. So there's substantial incentive. So probably if you compare the prices of ethanol being paid across world, probably the Indian prices being paid to ethanol are one of the probably the best. So the remunerative prices have been one of the major reasons for having the pull effect for production. And that's how the capacities have been diverted to this, whether biodiesel or this thing. Because whether it's 1G ethanol or the biodiesel from any of the feedstocks, there are competing applications, whether within India or export. So, like in case of biodiesel, whether the palm stearate oil or the TBO, there are export pools from European geographies for their SAF requirements, so HEFA route or biodiesel. Or in ethanol case, probably the spirit as well as the chemical. So there are competing applications, so unless we get remunerative rates, probably the product will not come. So there has been a conscious effort from 18 onward to give remunerative prices, and that has only helped in increasing the really good supply position. And to promote this advanced biofuels, there are incentives being given from ministry, like for 2G ethanol, the PM Jeevan Yojana is there, in which for commercial plants, 150 crores or 20% of the project cost is being given as a VGF. And in case of demo projects also, like if you are developing new technology, then almost 15 crores incentives available for setting up a demo plant, capital subsidy. In case of CBG also, there has been a effort to give a baseline price viability. Even when it was started when Subodh sir was leading the initiative, 46 rupees was the minimum baseline that was assured. And so the prices have been increased gradually to give them the economic comfort. So viability will have to be ensured. And how do we blend that procurement price with the other fuels will determine so that we recover in a just manner from the customer.
Absolutely right.
So
in
that
fact,
is the strategy that is being adopted.
In fact, 2011, I was part of ethanol pricing committee, and at that point in time, ethanol prices were 25, 26 rupees per liter. And we, based on the calorific value of petrol as also the calorific value of ethanol, we decided to increase it by 5 rupees. And that point in time, the 5 rupees increasing price from 26 rupees to 31 rupees was a big take. And Sharad Pawar, he said कि भाई इतना ज़्यादा price तो मत बढ़ाइए. So absolutely right. I mean, 60 rupees compared to the MS, the international MS price parity is but on a higher
much higher than the RTP. Present RTP of MS and ethanol is a good difference there.
Subodh,
Sir,
you have faced all these problems, so yes, some soothing because growth has to happen.
My voice is clear? It's coming?
Yeah.
So on the pricing front, yes, we were involved in the CBG pricing, ethanol pricing and all. So until unless market gets the remunerative price, people will not be producing and they will not be giving. That is pakka. And, but there are some challenges. I will give you one recent example. Just to increase the maize production, so the maize-based ethanol is getting somewhere around 72 rupees, slightly less than 72 rupees, 71.7 or something. That kind of the price is given for the maize-based ethanol. This is over and above transportation and GST. Now what has happened? The farmer gets somewhere around 22 rupees on the maize. Because of this MSP is somewhere around 18 rupees or 20 rupees, depending on which state we are talking about. And 1 liter of ethanol takes around 2.4 kgs of the maize, corn. Now what has happened here? There are middlemen involved, so they bought the produce from the farmers and they started hoarding it. Now present day the price for the maize is somewhere around 26 rupees to 28 rupees a kg. And 50% of the plants are under shutdown. They are not producing ethanol because the price is no more, even the 72 rupees is no more lucrative. Internationally, if you talk about the price of ethanol, it is somewhere around 35 rupees to 40 rupees a liter.
That's...
And what Pravin was trying to say, the RTP, refinery transfer price, what we call it, means that is somewhere around 40 to 42 rupees for a liter of petrol and diesel. So that is another story.
Yeah.
We should not be discussing here. Yes, sir, a lot of incentives are there. For the CBG plant, MNRE handles the, and there is a capital subsidy of capped at 10 crore rupees for the MNRE. But various state governments like UP, recently Andhra, Bihar, Gujarat is coming out with a new policy now. Maharashtra, they have their policy is ready. They are waiting for the election to be over. So all these people are giving the lot of incentives on the CBG plants productions. Both two kinds of subsidies are coming now there. Incentives on the production side, and the capital subsidy. Then some on the power tariff. They don't charge you, the state portion of GST is refunded. They don't charge you any registration fee for the land and all. So a lot of incentives are there from the state governments. So, either through their industrial policy or through the biofuel policy.
So thank you, Subodh.
Thank you, sir.
Sanjukta, quickly your views. 1 minute.
So, yeah, initially for few years can be considered to encourage for the production of these biofuels, but nothing much I would like to comment on this.
Mahak.
I don't have much to add.
Okay. Faizur?
I think, sir, the incentives
You
and
are
the
a
pricing is
bioenergy person,
quite good
so-
for ethanol. I think more can be done on the biomass side. The government
Yeah,
can take
that's
some
right.
efforts
Yeah.
to collect it by themselves or make some
Yeah.
regulations about it.
No, that's absolutely right, because that would solve many purposes, in fact, the biomass collection and its proper pricing system. So we had a great discussion. Could we take quickly some 2-3 questions? What is the difference in calorific value in green hydrogen and gray hydrogen? Hydrogen is hydrogen, there's no difference, in fact. Is there any technology your company suggests to limit NOx from ammonia as a fuel? NOx from ammonia as a fuel. No, in fact, NOx to what extent, yes.
Could be from the earlier session, yeah.
So what is the industry perception of enzyme-based fuel additive technology, particularly regarding its potential to enhance fuel efficiency and reduce emissions? Anyone?
Enzyme, there are two processes over here, if I understood properly. Enzyme is required when we take the biomass, there is its lignin and the cellulose, hollow cellulose, means complete carbohydrates, which is a mixture of pentose and hexose. So first in the pre-treatment, we normally look at delignifying or separation of the lignin, which is the binding element. Then the hollow cellulose, which is a pentose and hexose. Enzyme is used for conversion of these are the complex form of sugars, the carbohydrates. Enzyme is required to convert to the simple forms like monomers, because the host that we use for bioethanol, they can feed on easily on the monomeric fractions, the simple form of sugars. So enzyme is not used for the ethanol production. Enzyme is used for hydrolysis of this complex form of carbohydrates to simple form. The simple form of sugars are being used as a food for the host microorganism which is producing ethanol.
So
Hope
that's,
I could answer this.
yeah. Now this question, 1G, 2G biofuel feed management to be addressed given agricultural climate dependency, urbanized. You see, we are burning 40 million tons of bioenergy as stubble burning only in NCR. You can imagine, I mean, the kind of biomass being burned in the entire country itself. So obviously, I mean, you see, that's an area where Availability is not a problem. Its management, collection, and proper use is one of the major problem in India. And that has to be given some incentive so that you have the biomass being available for the different applications to be used properly. Thank you.
Once again, thanks to our panelists for throwing light on a very pertaining topic of integrating refinery with the bio route. May I now request Dr. S.C. Sharma to kindly felicitate our panel. May I request Mr. Pravin Dongre to kindly come forward for the felicitation. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our speaker and for this wonderful panel discussion we just had. Thank you, sir. May I now request Mr. Subodh Kumar to kindly come forward for the felicitation. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insight. May I now request Dr. Sanjukta Subudhi to kindly come forward for the felicitation. Thank you so much, ma'am, for honoring us with your presence. May I now request Dr. Mahak Dhiman to kindly come forward. And may I now request Mr. Faizur Rehman to kindly come forward for the felicitation. Thank you so much, sir. And may I now request Mr. Manoj Kumar, General Manager, HR from Adani Petrochemicals to kindly come forward to felicitate Dr. S.C. Sharma. May I have Dr. Manoj Kumar here with us? Welcome, sir. Please come. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma, for conducting and moderating such a wonderful panel discussion. Thank you, sir. And may I now request all our panelists to kindly come together for a photo opportunity. Sir, I request you to please stay on stage and for the photo opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.